There's a pattern I see time and time again with high-performing founders and leaders. You're the person people turn to when things are messy, when the stakes are high, and when the answer isn't always obvious. You can hold complexity. You can make decisions with very little information, and you can see around corners that other people don't even realize exist. And yet, in the quieter parts of the work, the admin, the follow-through, and the endless email threads, it can feel like you're pushing uphill. And not because you're lazy, and not because you lack any discipline, but because your capability doesn't show up evenly. If you've ever noticed that gap and quietly wondered what that means about you, stay with me. This is Jagged Brilliance, the show for ambitious founders, leaders, and twice exceptional minds who don't fit in neat boxes. Here, we break down what actually holds high potential people back. Things like invisible burnout, mislabeled sensitivity, and systems built for average. Here, you learn how to turn your uneven edges into strategic advantage and build sustainable impact without burning yourself out. Let's dive in. Here's what rarely gets said out loud. Ambitious neurodivergent professionals aren't hiding on the margins, waiting to be included. They're already in the room. They're in the C-suites, and they're building some of the most influential startups of our time. They're shaping industries, culture, and technology, often in spite of the systems that they're working inside. Here's a stat that tends to surprise people. A recent global study found that 45% of today's C-suite executives now self-identify as having a neurodivergent profile. Nearly half. That's not a niche. That's a signal. And it tells us that the way we've defined good performance for decades no longer matches the people actually driving progress. So if you've ever wondered why you can solve a high-stakes strategic crisis in your sleep but feel like a glitch because you can't keep up with a simple email thread, if you're tired of white-knuckling your way through every day, quietly trading your mental health for your revenue goals, then you, my friend, are in the right place. Because this isn't a motivation problem. And it's not a character flaw. It's a design mismatch. I'm Mariane Power, behavioural scientist, systems strategist, and a former clinical psychologist. And my own journey hasn't been a straight line either. I started out in theatre and filmmaking, drawn to human stories, how people perform, how they make meaning, how they unravel, and how they recover. That curiosity eventually pulled me into psychology and then into systems work to try to understand not just how people cope, but how they build lives and careers that don't quietly break them over time. For nearly 2 decades, I did several things at once. I assessed some of Australia's most complex neurodevelopmental profiles. I built and scaled businesses, and I worked with elite performers, athletes, creatives, founders, helping them design work and lives that could actually sustain their level of talent, all while privately struggling with the very same friction points. Because what I didn't realize until I was 38 was that I wasn't just supporting this population, I was part of it. Twice exceptional. High capability, high cost. When we say twice exceptional or 2E, what we're talking about is people who have both high intelligence or giftedness and a neurodivergent profile. Now, that might look like exceptional cognitive intelligence, but it can also look like creativity or strategic thinking, alongside a profile like ADHD, autism, dyslexia, or any other difference in how the brain and nervous system processes information. The key thing to understand is this. These two things don't cancel each other out. They coexist, which means a twice exceptional person can be outstanding in some areas and struggle deeply in others. And it's not because they're inconsistent, but it's because their intelligence is uneven by design. In clinical settings, we often use a language like disorder or comorbidity to describe how different brains and nervous systems show up with this paradox. And I'll name that framing once, but I'll likely not return to it. Not because the struggles aren't real. They are, and trust me, I know that intimately. But because struggle alone doesn't explain why so many people with these profiles end up leading companies, building movements, and thriving through uncertainty. So this series is about the other half of the story. Here, we're dismantling the smooth, linear performance standards of the 20th century and rewriting the architecture of how work and leadership actually function. Because whether you're an ADHD leader whose gut instinct is rapid pattern recognition, an autistic strategist whose productivity spikes dramatically in the right conditions, or a dyslexic founder who sees market gaps long before others do, your neurobiology isn't incidental to your success. It's central to it, and especially now. We're entering an era where AI is rapidly automating linear, predictable tasks, the very tasks traditional performance models were built around and cared about. The world no longer needs people who are evenly good at everything. I think it needs people with the spikes. People who can synthesize, intuit, imagine, and see patterns that machines will still struggle to replicate, provided we don't break those humans in the process. In AI research and commentary, there's growing discussion about what's called jagged intelligence. It describes systems that are extraordinary at some domains and unreliable in others by design. It's funny how when a machine works this way, we call it architecture, and yet when a human works this way, the system often calls us the problem. I'm here to offer the reframe. Our unevenness isn't a flaw. It's also a design feature. What many high-potential neurodivergent professionals are paying right now is what I call a masking tax, an enormous drain on cognitive and emotional energy spent trying just to appear standard, just to access brilliance in the margins. You don't need more grit, and you don't need to be trying harder. What you need are systems that stop taxing your nervous system. This work is deeply personal for me. Years ago, when my two neurodivergent kids, teens at the time, hit full system burnout in traditional schooling, we didn't try to fix them. We redesigned their environment. We rebuilt their learning architecture from the ground up because the standard one was breaking them. Today, they're thriving creatively, academically, and emotionally. If you were to look them up, you'll probably see them as the emerging artists they are in their own right. And to me, they're living proof that when you fix the architecture, the brilliance takes care of itself. That same architecture now underpins the systems that I design for leadership teams around the world. Because your difference, our difference, it isn't a liability. It's exactly what this different kind of world needs right now. Over this series, we're going to bridge the gap between your neurobiology and your ambition. We'll explore why you can solve a $10 million problem but struggle to start a simple email, and how to unlock focus without force, why brilliant founders hit invisible ceilings right when they should be accelerating, and how to spot the early warning signs of cognitive collapse in yourself and your teams before burnout makes decisions for you. If you're done trying harder and ready to start building smarter, hit subscribe. I'm Mariane Power, and this is Jagged Brilliance. Let's build systems that don't break the brilliant people inside them.